Welcome back, folks, to the WP Tonic Show. It's episode 542. Got a great guest. Got Ronald Gazel from vThemes. They're really well known in the WooCommerce plugin area. We're going to be discussing all things WooCommerce in this episode. And also, I've got my great co-host who is returning. So I'm going to let my guest introduce himself. Can you give us a quick 10, 20-second intro, Ronald, about what you do and the company, and then we go into the main part of the interview?
Sure. So my name is Ronald. I work for YITH, as it's now known, because it's Your Inspiration Themes. YITH is a bit shorter, but even many different versions of the pronunciation. So I'm the partnership manager there. YITH is a company, like you said, specialist in WooCommerce plugins. I also co-host the London WooCommerce meetup. And before I joined YITH, I was a micro agency owner, i.e. me and my wife and a few associates to run a whole lot of WooCommerce stores. So been doing it for quite a few years now.
That's great. And I've got my great co-host, Stephen. Would you like to quickly introduce yourself to the new listeners and viewers?
Yeah, my name's Stephen Souter. I'm from zipfish.io. We are a hosting company that specializes in optimizing not just the servers, but also the WordPress code that is running on your site to make things as fast as possible.
That's great. And before going into the main part of the interview, I want to talk about one of our great sponsors, and that's Kinsta Hosting. Kinsta Hosting is a word-only hosting provider. They host the WP Tonic website, superb hosting. If you're looking for speed, looking for reliability and great support and a great UX design with great functionality, Kinsta's the place to find it. If you've got a WooCommerce site, a learning management site, anything that needs real power, go to Kinsta. They're one of the best WordPress specialized hosting providers on the market, in my opinion. And when you go over there, and if you do buy one of their packages, please tell them that you heard about them on the WP Tonic show. So, Ronald, can you give us a quick outline of the history of the company and how long it's been in business and what you precisely do?
So the company was founded by Nando Pappalardo, who's a Sicilian, back in 2009. He started the company, it was more of a blog teaching the Italian market in web design, WordPress. That then evolved into creating themes, which they were selling on ThemeForest and doing rather well with those. Just a few themes made them the third or fourth best seller for a number of years. So that income, I think millions, that sort of powered the business moving forward. Then in 2014, Nando saw the opportunity of WooCommerce, which then was part of or was owned by WooThemes or run under WooThemes. And he created the first theme with plugins like Ajax Search, Wishlist. The first premium was then created in 2014, early 2015. Then WooCommerce was bought up by Automattic. So that obviously was a strong confirmation that he was, doing the right thing, moving in the right direction. And since then, YITH has grown and is now 100% WooCommerce focused. The themes is a lot less. We have only one theme for sale at the moment. Not for sale. We have one theme which is we've made available for free. And the plugin marketplace, or our own marketplace, now contains 112 premium plugins. On top of that, we also have 62 free plugins on WordPress.org. Some of those are freemium options of the premium solutions. The marketplace, so they're all developed by ourselves. A lot of the developers, they've been with us since 2009, and seen WordPress evolve. Started with WooCommerce right from the beginning, so there's a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience. The plugins are going through a second, if not a third, phase of development. which means that they are, code review, updated, new features, and really try to be the absolute premium solution within the WooCommerce market, ecosystem. For example, gift cards is one of those solutions where we've taken inspiration outside of what's available within WooCommerce. Amazon is probably one of the best examples of how e-commerce should be run. They've nailed a big part of that. I actually read that 38% of retail in the US is online retail is going through Amazon, which is just an astonishing number. But anyway, that aside. So going through these redevelopment of our plugins, we start to look at how plugins can work together, how we can optimize them, add new features, but also features that you can only do by combining them. And that created quite a robust plugin ecosystem ourselves. They're all built on the same framework, so compatibility and working with popular themes, also with Elementor and Beaver Builder. We test on that because that's exactly what people are after, or shopkeepers. They don't want to make things compatible. It needs to just work. And so we do our utmost best to make that happen, which is really tricky. But support is one of those things that we give priority to anything, which has been challenging. I joined the company over a year ago, and I was a user of the suite, so I was very familiar with the team, with the support, with the solutions. So I've started engaging with them, and I've sort of been absorbed into this family, and I can't imagine not working with them now, because they've been just absolutely fantastic. Like I said, so many of them have been there for years, which gives a really strong sense of that family. Maybe it's a bit of a cliche thing to say, but Italian, Spanish. Oh yeah, that's probably also important to say. So owner then moved to Tenerife, where he set up another base. So 50% of the company is sort of Spanish in Tenerife. The other half is in Italy. Of course, we all work remotely now, although there are two offices. We have people in Madrid and then myself here in the UK. So I'm the partnership manager, and I look after various new partnerships, but also with our support partners. And the community part is not so much relevant now because WordCamps aren't happening, apart from the digital ones. But yeah, I would have been at, I think, at least 6 or 7 US WordCamps alone this year, which I regret greatly not being able to take part in. But here we go.
There we go. Over to you, Stephen.
Yeah, so I was just browsing around the Yith website, and just like the breadth and the depth of plugins that you guys offer for WooCommerce was astounding. Like, I've seen your plugins like kind of in the WordPress repository, just as you're like looking around for random stuff, but I've never actually like dived into the company before. One thing that I noticed is that like there are some plugins that that like WooCommerce subscriptions. We'll take that for instance, right?
Yep.
Like you can buy that through the WooCommerce marketplace, or you guys have a WooCommerce subscription plugin too that looks a little bit different, but also looks like full featured and really addresses all of the issues. How do you guys align yourself as far as why would someone use Yith versus just going straight to the WooCommerce like e-commerce portal or whatever and buy the subscription through them?
Yeah, there's a bit of a history behind it. So we were very focused on bringing in users and being part of this club membership. And the club membership would give you access to all the plugins and for up to 30 licenses. That we have we've cut down on a little bit because it had its challenges, but also the individual plugins, they've now become so strong pieces of software solutions in the WooCommerce ecosystem that on their own they're really strong candidates. So as a sort of a historical part, we had we wanted to be able to create any type of e-commerce setup with our plugin, so a club user could say, I want a marketplace, I want a membership, a subscription, and a number of automations, abandoned cart connected to MailChimp and so on. We would have all of that built in. It would work well together. It would be compatible. That was, or is still actually very, very important to us. So being able to address all the key solutions for selling online using WooCommerce, including subscriptions, that's why we needed to have all these parts. If you are a club, or if you are a club member, you can suggest what you would like. So if we feel there's a really strong need of, I think the point of sale solution was one of those that we had so much feedback on, that we just dedicated a lot of time in creating that. But that has then become by far the best, if I may say so myself, POS solution. And I've tried various of them before I worked for Yith. And that on its own now is a really strong, plugin. So working with WooCommerce, I think if I was a WooCommerce user, I would like to join WooCommerce as my solution, because that gives me choice, flexibility, but also compatibility. So if WooCommerce, knowing was compatible with the latest version, they update all the time, just like WooCommerce is, I would see that as a very strong candidate. If Yith would offer subscription and membership and dynamic pricing, and I know out of the box I can create an Amazon Prime feature, which I wrote a blog post about not so long ago to make that happen. I'd say, oh yes, Yith actually has just that what I want. So it's not for everybody, but we'd like to think that Yith offers something much more user friendly versus other companies.
Yeah, there's something really compelling about having all of these plugins housed inside of one company. Because if I go to the WooCommerce marketplace right now, I can buy various different plugins, but not all of them are supported by Automattic, or not all of them are created by them. And then you get in those weird situations where somebody's like, oh, it's their plugin, they need to fix it. And it's like, no, it's actually that other plugin. Like, try deactivating all your plugins. And these kind of like support nightmares, because you're all of a sudden finding yourself sitting in the middle between all these different plugin developers out there. And also just like the scope that you guys have covered, I feel like you have even more options out there than what you could get in the WooCommerce marketplace right now. Like, just all the various add-ons and stuff is pretty impressive. Yeah,
you've touched there on quite a sensitive subject we hear from so many users. It's that classic, oh, this doesn't work, and then it's disable all your plugins, install a vanilla theme, and then 48 hours later you're still not anywhere because you're trying to chase where is the actual problem in the first place. So yeah, it's a common thing, and I think for WooCommerce in general, that is a threat. Your WooCommerce installation is just as good as the weakest plugin, and as a user, it's not in your interest to chase down various rabbit holes to figure out where the issue actually is. Whether that's a piece of custom code or a rogue plugin or something else. You just want to, especially in WooCommerce, you want to sell. You want this just to work, and I think everybody is sort of aware of it. That could be a threat versus some other popular e-commerce solutions, proprietary systems. And it is something we feel a responsibility in to make that happen, to address that.
As far as like Yith starting out as a theme company and now very much a plugin company, was that decision driven by Gutenberg, or was that decision already happening prior to Gutenberg? I just find it very interesting watching how theme shops are dealing with WordPress adopting kind of a page builder in its core.
Themes were a really big part, of course, but the theme market has changed and it is very saturated, especially the premium themes. Page builders, they do take a big part in that, but a decision to focus on plugins, solely on plugins, I think that was made 3-4 years ago even, and the premium themes, they were retired in the last 6 months, not being able, we don't sell them anymore.
Yeah.
So now we have a free theme, which is page builder friendly, works with Gutenberg. A lot of the plugins have Gutenberg specific features. Also for Elementor, we work really hard to give a lot more functionality and flexibility. And whether that works with our themes called Proteo. Proteo is also a theme that now has different templates. So we've just released our second one, which is a food themed template. But that's in a way our free maybe gift to the community, because that and a couple of plugins, you can create that seamless solution that you might want. Whether you're a restaurant or pizzeria that need to sell online, with our solutions, you can do that, and you can do that quick without any issues.
Oh, that's great. We're going to go for our break, folks. We'll be back. We're going to be delving more into the world of WooCommerce with Reynold, and we'll be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back. We've had a bit of the history and talking about the company and that. So before we went live, we were talking about maybe some subjects that would interest. And one of the things you brought up, which I thought was a great subject, was how WooCommerce fits in competing with the competition. And the biggest one is Shopify, but there's also a number of other SaaS-based, and it's kind of linked to the last part of our discussion in the first half, isn't it, really? Because, like what you said, a WooCommerce site is normally only as strong as its weakest plugin. So what are the strengths of WooCommerce and what are some of the weaknesses compared to the SaaS competition in your eyes?
I think the biggest strength is, and this has been mentioned many times by the top people at Automattic, democratizing commerce is a really strong one. I think the other strong one is the flexibility that it gives you, and also the transferable skills. So if you know WordPress, to jump onto WooCommerce is really easy. And of course, if you host a store, it's your data, which is also really important. And you can, after hosting, you can really start with you can start your store with pretty much zero. You're connected to PayPal, and you can make your first sale within a day without any additional cost. So for me, those are really important ones. I love the flexibility. I love that you can do so much more with WooCommerce than with other proprietary systems. Really advanced connections and customize your own solution for any type of service or product. And I think the service industry, especially, whether you're an accountant or yoga artist or yoga, an artist or a yoga class teacher, instructor. WooCommerce can be a big part of that. And it also leads a little bit to the weakness, because these people with these professions, they are not WordPress specialists. And although, teaching somebody to install a plugin and going through a wizard, that's fine. But just a basic WordPress theme and WooCommerce doesn't give you a shop. You need to do so much more. And that's when things start to become a little bit complicated. And that gap of, and I think Shopify, they've nailed that from onboarding, going through various details, picking a theme, you can see very quickly where your project is heading, and how you can make that, pretty useful. Longer down further down the road, you could put things on a balance and say cost-wise, if you go for premium plugins, it can be quite costly as well. But I think Shopify, they also have premium plugins or extensions. It can also be really costly. I think that calculation or comparison, yeah, there's an argument on both sides. But I think at the end, you can do whatever you want to do with your WooCommerce store, extending it, using it as a blog or membership, or moving it to another host, to Kinsta, for example. I think it's such a powerful, that ownership is just so important. At least for me, it is.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with your analysis, which you would be because you're so involved in the WooCommerce. I'll give you an example. WP Tonic specialises in the building, support, and hosting of learning management systems and e-learning. And I had a customer approach me. He signed up for one of our packages, and he's based in Costa Rica, and he wanted to take on not only PayPal but online payments. And I said, so normally I recommend the most simplest solution, and then we build up, and we're going to use Lifter LMS, and we're going to use its internal shopping cart system, but that only supports, it does have a WooCommerce extension, but it only out the box supports either PayPal or Stripe, and Stripe does not cover Costa Rica. And then I looked at the WooCommerce, and the gateway provided plugins are extremely limited for South America. I was quite surprised.
Yeah.
Is that an area that has to be improved on? Because I was shocked by the poor, the reviews of some of these plugins that provided some functionality, so you could use some gateway providers that were based in South America are really poor. So I think there's some work that needs to be done there, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. The localization of WooCommerce, and it probably also covers shipping. It's evolving quite a lot. I mean, we've released a plugin last week, which is the PayPal Commerce Platform, and I know PayPal is developing this integration with new payment types and currencies. So speaking here in Europe, Dutch prefer ideal payment, German, so forth, and so, etc. And I can imagine South America is quite similar, although I'm not so familiar with that. That each country has sort of their own preferred payment method, and if that's not available inside your store or so, well, that can be quite a tricky situation to market your store. I think there is a lot more work to be done, and I think the world, and especially WooCommerce, is, well, not surprised, but the development and moving into new territories definitely has its challenges.
Yeah, I have no idea if you could do that in Shopify. I have no idea. It doesn't mean they probably got limited. So I came to the conclusion there's still quite a lot of areas where setting up a store with whatever provider you're looking at is still pretty complicated. Over to you, Stephen.
With setting up a WooCommerce store, you were kind of talking about the wizards and the onboarding process of things, and kind of being in the agency world prior to this. Do you feel like there's an easy pathway, or there's starting to become a more easy pathway for like someone who has no knowledge of WordPress to just say, I'm going to start a WooCommerce store? Or do you think that that's a place that's best served by agencies utilizing platforms like Yith to get all the modules and plugins and packages and whatever you need out of the box to set up that store?
I think it's a space that needs to be filled by somebody. I think agencies, they provide a really important role there, but it's so customized to one user, and I think there are so many users that might not have that courage to engage with an agency and really want to hide behind a wizard and a step-by-step plan that's really easy to follow. And I think maybe hosting companies will fill up that space. I think GoDaddy, no doubt, with the recent acquisition of SkyVerge, are onto something to integrate that gap, or that solution into that gap. but I also think WooCommerce needs to give a clear direction on where this is going, because if that's not going to happen, you will get these disintegrated systems, maybe all running on WooCommerce, but you might be using a GoDaddy solution, or you might be using an Elementor solution that, you know, although they work well together because it's still WooCommerce, but you're not quite sure where you are. And if we can't transfer one thing to another, or you know, like you can do with your host, you don't really give the power back to the customer anymore. So it's really difficult to address that. And I think it's a bit of a race, because if that's not addressed soon enough, you know, Shopify and you know, they will just nail that solution, because it's just so easy to get started.
What are your thoughts about somebody creating another e-commerce solution? So right now we have like WooCommerce, Easy Digital Downloads are like the two big people. But I feel like the more I talk to more WordPress people, everybody's like, we need something else to compete against WooCommerce or Easy Digital Download to keep pushing those guys forward, right? Do you think there's space in the market for that, or do you think that's pretty much all occupied by the giants?
It's a difficult one, because if I answer it from a user's perspective, I'd say probably there's enough choice. But it depends very much what you want to do, because Easy Digital Downloads, or, you know, using some sort of LMS solution alone might not be the right thing. So, but at the same time, you know, if you look at all these other proprietary systems, one thing for sure, competition does drive innovation forward. So if there is another competitor, I think everybody will raise their game again and improve on that. And I think that's, you know, Shopify's really has really done that for WooCommerce, and will continue to do that, to do so. But yeah, the you know, that if there's space for another one, I think from an agency point of view, you know, if I take maybe your point of view, I think that can only be a good thing. But they've got a lot of catching up to do to make it even near to the, you know, the WooCommerce standard and the number of extensions that are available within that ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, because you guys have what, like 60 what? How many? There's an astronomical amount.
Well, yeah, it's 110, 112 premium plus, yeah, the freemium and so on. Yeah.
So a question that I'm just going to ask for your view. It's linked to what we've just been discussing. You know, the Automattic bought WooCommerce, and I think that was over 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, and they still haven't produced a web-based platform, a SaaS WooCommerce solution. And I think that would, you know, that would answer some of these questions. But have you been surprised that they've not been able to really do that? And we're in 2020, coming to the end of 2020. Do you see that ever materializing, you know, really?
It's a really difficult one, because I can see, again, you know, two sides of the argument, that the strength of WooCommerce is because it's not tied to anything and you can do whatever you want. But then again, WordPress.com is a, you know, sort of a maybe arguably a SaaS solution. It's a hosted, you know, with its own limited ecosystem. So why WooCommerce.com hasn't done something like WordPress.com, I'm surprised. But then at the same time, maybe it's not up to them to fill that space. Maybe it would make it, you know, the WordPress as an open source, WooCommerce as the open source solution is different to, you know, the whole commercial entity, the marketplace and so on.
Well, I was just thinking, if I was a entrepreneur looking to set up e-commerce in a marketplace, I would find it reassuring that I could go to Automattic and their quick and easy solution, and then if I outgrown it, I know the code, but you know, I know that it's not going to be as difficult as just moving completely from Shopify to WooCommerce, if you know what I mean. It will, to some extent, it would be easier if I go for a fully my own hosted solution. It'd just be a bit more integrated, wouldn't it? Or you would hope it would be, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and then also to make that transfer, isn't it? As a sort of almost like a springboard where you set it all up, you do your research, maybe make your first sale, and then realize this is the right system to take it somewhere else and go for a premium host to be able to manage with that traffic, that with a sort of a lower risk investment. Yeah.
Well, we're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show. Reynolds has been kind enough to say he's going to stay on for what we call bonus content, which you'll be able to hear the whole interview plus the bonus content on the WP Tonic YouTube channel. So, Reynolds, what's the best way to find out more about what you're up to and what the company's up to?
So I think the blog post is always good, but you can always contact me with, through LinkedIn or Twitter. I think most of my handles are just, and then the number 2, Ronald. And definitely engage with me. I'm always happy to contact and speak to people.
That's great. And if the best way is, if you want to support the show, folks, is to go to the WP Tonic YouTube channel. We've got loads of additional videos. I'm producing a lot more videos than I used to. And you'll find all that content on the WP Tonic YouTube channel. So go over there, subscribe, and give some of the videos a thumb up. And also, if you really like what you're hearing, is go to Apple and give the podcast a review. That also really helps. We'll be back next week with another great guest and another great discussion. We'll see you soon, folks. But remember about the bonus content and go over and see the whole interview on our YouTube channel. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye. So bonus content. So you're, like you say, you're the community manager, and and you go to all these. A lot of it was outreach to the community, obviously, and go into these WordCamps. Obviously, they've been stopped because of the dreaded virus. So why spend so much time and effort on going to all these WordCamps, basically? Is it that I'm surmising that you, as a company, that you feel that your biggest purchaser are developer types and that they tend to go to these WordCamps? Is that why you spend that amount of time and effort on that?
No.
Got it wrong.
No, it's actually a lot simpler than that. It's we love WordPress. The company is founded and made its money on WordPress. So giving back in that way, educating newcomers to WordPress using that as a way, WordCamps as an introduction. On contributor days are a big thing for us as well to take part in, and as well as organizing, the guys in and girls in Italy, Catania, they've organized their own WordCamp, and I'm co-organized several of them. So that's always been a really big part of that community spirit of what WordPress is and stands for. Then, of course, it's really nice to be there, speak with users, new users, and just have a general good time and enjoy, the conversation, because you learn a lot from that. You learn a lot from your users. And then it's the swag. I mean, we always give out lots of T-shirts, and they're ever so popular. And then, it's not about, you have to sign up here. It's like, no, what size do you want? There you go. And that's, that makes a WordCamp great, because for some people, swag is a really important thing. For others, it's the community and speaking with sponsors or with asking for solutions, having a good discussion, contributing. and then of course the talk. So being part of that whole network is just a great way of being sponsored.
Oh, great. Over to you, Stephen.
Since we kind of touched on COVID and everything kind of in person disappearing and people going online, from like an inside perspective, since you guys are like inside the e-commerce world and live and breathe that, what are you guys seeing right now? What are like your users talking about, and what are their needs? Kind of just what's the overall tone?
Yeah, I mean, of course, we have seen a growth in uptake, and WooCommerce, I think in general, has grown. I'm guessing maybe 30-40% in the last 7-8 months. Our users are looking for solutions to be able to continue trading. So there's a big shift from offline to online. But I think that's a trend that was happening already, because the high street, especially in the UK, is just not what it used to be. You know, the rivalry of the big marketplaces is there, and businesses had to reinvent themselves. So that shift from offline to online is, it's really happened in a really short time now. So solutions like, request a quote is a really big thing, because you might not be ready to put all your products online, maybe just an image, but being able to have that conversation with potential buyers of, I would love this custom-made table, but can you do it in a different size or in a different color, and then come to an agreement. But also restaurants, food places, they might not want to enroll in another of these proprietary systems where they sell, they take a huge commission. I was absolutely surprised how much money they take. So creating your own solution, whether it's done by your next door neighbor because they know a little bit of WordPress, adding your menu. So, little things like that are quite challenging for us to keep up with. One of the updates is the catalog mode, which we're adding a timer to it. So you could have a lunchtime menu available up until 3 o'clock, and then a dinner menu available up until 10 o'clock. So, different, so people don't order things from the lunchtime menu. So little things like that we're adapting to, probably never fast enough to, what the sudden demand is. But I love those challenges because we ultimately solve problems.
Cool. What is your trajectory from here? So you have, well over 100 plugins developed, covering all these various edge cases in the WooCommerce area. Are you just going to keep trying to build more and more plugins and cover even more of those different scenarios and situations, or what's the trajectory of this?
No, it's not more plugins. I think the biggest focus is on redeveloping, making them better. So better, optimizing them, adding new features. So I think one of the bigger updates is the multi-vendor marketplace plugin that will eventually tie in all the other, bigger key plugins like subscription, auctions, membership, because then you can create sites like Airbnb, Amazon, eBay, and then they all have their own supporting plugins, the marketing plugins to, create deals or automate some processes like abandoned cart or history, where you remind a customer of what they've looked at and give them a deal. Those sort of secondary or solutions.
Interesting. Back to you, Jonathan.
So what do you think? Do you think, based on your experience, are most of these people attempting to build this solution themselves, or are they approaching a freelancer, a power user, consultant type, or a small agency? Are they a lot of them really do it themselves types, or are they hiring people?
We want to offer the quality that speaks to agency, so that there is enough customization available, and making them, the GPL license is important to us. But at the same time, I think the shift to individual store owners wanting to do it themselves is a really strong case. And we do promote that in blogs, for example, easy to follow tutorials and manuals. Because that's also, part of why WooCommerce and WordPress is so powerful, because you can do that. You can install a plugin and suddenly, for $50 or $100, you have a whole new functionality or feature-rich site available. So, and using that UX experience and extending that to all the plugins, we see that as a big growth market. But at the same time, personally, from an agency freelancer background, I don't think none of this can ever be replaced by what they offer, because the knowledge of a freelancer or of an agency goes beyond extending a plugin, because the plugin is only, it's a solution, but it's optimizing that, integrating that with other, whether it's plugins or, and I think this is the shift now moving forward, is the other systems where you pass details to or information, whether it's HubSpot or ActiveCampaign, and a lot of the automation, but also like social media. So sales and checkouts are done on those platforms. So your WooCommerce store is your database, is your that's what you own, and then all these different connections, whether it's Walmart or Instagram or HubSpot, where you exchange information to and from. I think that's what will the power will be, and that's difficult. Seeing that global view, understanding each of those platforms, connecting it with API as easy as you can possibly make it with setup wizards. There's always so much that can go wrong, and how do you test it? How do you make sure that your schema is really being picked up by Google? The tools are there, but I think a store owner, first thing is they know their customer and they need to sell.
Yeah, well, it's very similar to the new management area, really. There's so many things you can do with WordPress. So I've found with a lot of clients, they tend to overcomplicate the initial build out, and I've done a few WooCommerce build outs and Shopify, and I found the same problem there, where they were initially making it overcomplicating the initial build out, where there's a place for that but it's not at the beginning. You want to build a simple build out, and maybe not get every bell and whistle that you would like, but it's getting something out there and testing it and getting feedback. And for the reasons which you described, why you go to the WordCamps to get that feedback is so crucial. So do you think I'm on the right track there? A lot of clients just get kind of mesmerized by this enormous chauffeur, board of options, and they just go mad, don't they?
Yeah, and WordPress.org has some great free plugins that you can just install and add, and then almost forget about as well. And that has a whole new book of worms that you then open, because if you compatibility and all the plugins that don't get updated. So I think that's probably what comes out of this conversation for sure is do engage with a freelancer or somebody who has that bit of experience, but also that vision, where all those bells and whistles, ignore those for now and look at the
well,
biggest
it's
goal.
work, isn't it? I'm not disparaging, it is work, but it enables you to avoid even the tougher grind, which is online marketing, actually getting your product in front of your target audience, having a coherent online message, all the factors that we're aware of as being digital professionals, which is so necessary now in a very crowded, almost every sector is crowded, isn't it? So having that knowledge and understanding is even more important, isn't it?
And also to understand where your most profitable business comes from, because you can spend a lot of time on, let's just call it Facebook, and you spend 40% of your time on there because that's where you engage with your customer. But if those are not your converting customers, you could be wasting a lot of time there. And understanding the analytics behind every customer, what they're doing, when they come on your site, how often do they come back to your site before they make a purchase, and then also throughout that whole user journey, I find that really fascinating, to being able to educate users to take each of these little snapshots or touch points with your customer, and making them understand that it's a much bigger picture than how many likes or how big is your audience, if you're really trying to sell something. And also automating a lot of those processes. I find that also quite an interesting aspect.
That's a can of worms on its own, right? I think we're going to finish the discussion now. You've been very generous with your time. I think we're around the 45, 48 minute mark now. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Reynolds. It's been a blast. It's gone quick, hasn't it? The 45 minutes.
Very quick, yeah.
But I think we've shown some insights about the company and everything. And we'll be back next week with another fabulous guest. I've lined up some fantastic interviews. We're going to power out the last quarter of this year. Hopefully next year is going to be a bit better for all of us. But I've got some fantastic guests coming on the show in the next 6 to 8 weeks. We'll be back soon, folks. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.